Would you like to know what the hardest part of manifesting actually is? It's looking at a negative situation in your life and imagining the most perfect situation that could ever exist. A couple of examples. If you are in the middle of poverty, when everything is at rock bottom, you've lost pretty much everything you've ever had in life, and you're just barely hanging on by a thread. And then to ignore that and imagine that life is wonderful, life is abundant, there's so much of every good thing, it is absolutely wonderful. To be able to express those ideas, to be able to focus your mind on those ideas when everything has gone wrong, and maybe has gone wrong for years, to be able to shift your thinking from one extreme to the other, that's the hardest part of manifesting. In manifesting, we teach that the clearer you can focus on what you want while ignoring everything else, experience it as if it is currently real, and fully believe that it will actually happen. That's what it takes to manifest. And for a lot of people, what they have experienced up to this point is a lot of negativity, a lot of loss, a lot of frustration, a lot of second best at best. I've been there. Those who know my story know that when I grew up, I was in a middle-class family. Everything was okay, nothing too spectacular, nothing too much of a problem. It was middle of the road. And then I got a full tuition scholarship to go to DeVry to study electrical engineering. Everything was looking up. And then things just started falling apart. I tried to go to school full-time, tried to work full-time. I couldn't handle it. I made a lot of bad choices, and the dominoes just started to fall one after the other until I had lost everything. I was out on the street, didn't have a place to stay, didn't have a car, didn't have a job, didn't have any friends, didn't have any family I felt I can go back to. It was a mess. And I stayed on that level for so long. I was just either on the street or just barely off the street for a couple of years before I finally was able to pull things around. When I finally did pull things around, it was little by little by little by little. When I was at that bottom, no, I was not able to imagine the most perfect outcome. And if someone had told me that, okay, this is the affirmation you need to repeat to yourself, everything is absolutely wonderful and I am blessed on all fronts, I would have looked at them and said, you have got to be kidding. There is absolutely no way I can believe that. And I would just be lying to myself. And I knew intuitively that lying to myself was not the right approach. So the affirmation that actually got me out of that deepest, darkest period, and it's technically not a good affirmation, but it worked. And that's all that really matters, is that it worked. When I was at that low point, I had to keep telling myself, it's not as bad as I think it is. It's not as bad as I think it is. And inside my mind, that meant there's something better than I'm not seeing. There's something better in my life than what I currently recognize. And that opened the door to a new possibility, a new area of growth. And one step after another eventually helped me escape that poverty mindset that I had fallen into. So trying to imagine that everything was absolutely perfect when it clearly was not the answer. That was too hard for me at that time. What I needed at that time, and what I hope is a good suggestion for at least some people watching this video, what I needed was to do it one step at a time. I couldn't jump from here to here in one step. I had to go from here to here, then from there to there, then from there to there, and then from there to there, and from there to there. And eventually I got to this point where I currently do feel that everything is wonderful. Life is a blessing. And it's just so much wonder that it's truly amazing. The hardest part of manifesting is being at the bottom and imagining yourself on the top. I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go for gold right off the bat. If you are just starting out as an athlete, you don't try to compete in the Olympics. You just play your sport, you do the best you can, you become better at it, you get better, you get better, you get better, you practice, you practice, you practice, you practice, and eventually, over time, by putting in the work, by putting in the focus, by doing whatever you can to get better at it step by step by step by step, you can completely turn your life around to be anything you want it to be. Just imagine it a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. Imagine it the best you can possibly imagine it happening. Yes, it can transform completely 100% overnight. That is possible. But you do have to be able to believe that it is possible before it will happen. Another example. Let's just go with another example, because money is not the only thing that we want to manifest in life. Sometimes it's a health issue. And this is also something that I have at least a little experience with. My health has generally been good over the years, but there was one time when I had a tooth that went bad, and I had a pretty intense toothache. And I know that when you are in pain, it is very hard to focus your mind and say, oh, everything is wonderful. I am feeling perfectly healthy and vibrant and alive, and it's just so wonderful. When you're in pain, that's difficult to do. And I recognize that. And I truly sympathize with anyone who is dealing with pain of any kind, whether it's tooth pain, whether it's a pain in the organs. There's just so many different types of pain that I understand that that can be a difficult thing. What we can do, taking the same basic principle that we just talked about with money and applying it to this, is that maybe the pain's not quite as bad as it was. Maybe it's a little bit less now than it was. Maybe it's a little bit less now than it was. Maybe it's a little bit less now than it was. Not quite as intense, not quite as intense. It's a little bit more of a dull, throbbing pain now instead of a intense, piercing pain. Imagine it shifting little by little by little by little, one step at a time, and you will eventually get rid of the entire pain. And then once that has happened, then it's possible to start rebuilding whatever was damaged in your body to become better than it was. Now, I do have to acknowledge some other realities here. Okay, in my case, and this may just be limited to me, I'm perfectly willing to accept that. In my case, the tooth that went bad eventually had to get pulled. I, at that time, was not able to heal that tooth and make it perfectly healthy. Just because I failed at it doesn't mean that it's not possible. You might have a situation where you can heal the condition that was causing pain and then turn things completely around. Maybe it's possible to regrow a tooth that's been pulled. I don't know. I haven't done it yet, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. So the hardest part of manifesting is attempting to completely change the direction of your life 180 degrees whether it's financial, whether it's health, whether it's relationships. I mean, I know people who have been in bad relationships for so many years, they don't understand that it's even possible to have a relationship where both people are so immensely happy and in tune with each other that it's just an extension of one to the other. I understand that there are some people who have had such a bad time with relationships, they don't see that that's possible. If this is a situation that you are in or have been in, then the best suggestion is you don't have to imagine the perfect 100% everything's in tune and in harmony situation. If that doesn't feel real to you, if it doesn't feel possible, stick with what you believe is possible. Stick with something where things just aren't as bad as they used to be. And true, I understand that that's not technically a good way of thinking about things, but you do what you can. And you work with what you have, and you take a step in a positive direction, however far you can go with it. And just keep at it, one step at another, one step at a time, one step after another. Let me get my words right here. One step at a time, one step after another will eventually take you anywhere you want to go. Just keep moving forward, keep moving in a positive direction, and trust that it is possible to find new areas of life that seem so wonderful and so blessed that you wouldn't have believed it until you got there. Know that it is possible, even if you don't see it quite yet. Keep with me. I'll help you through it. One step at a time, we'll get there. Until next time, be blessed, my friend.